give Macca a good photo. Alright, well that's the last of the sessions for us. Give it over to Kester to have one more crack. Then we'll call it a day. Kester, so I followed you a couple of laps and you were sliding and I was like, man, you got this down pat, yeah? And then what did you say to me when I climbed out of the radio?
What beer have I got to buy you?
Where did you go? What happened?
Turn 4. Crossed up out of it, had it fine. As soon as it straightened up, it just back in, come straight to the left. And I went, I could either power out and try and get out of it,
yeah, or
I can just go nut, and decided with nut, and then my brain went, I can deal with a beer now. Well, a few beers, it's not even a beer.
He owes me a case of beers now. We just got our new motor from Rocky Auto Spares. So let's get the old one out of the race car and put the new one in. Update. So got most of the front end off, radiator off and everything. Just makes it a bit easier to do the job. That way I can clean the oil cooler and everything there. It's only taking me about an hour, so it's not too bad. I'm taking off the oil cooler at the moment, the sandwich plate. Then I need to take the struts off and then do all the rear bits, so the gearbox bolts and all those things, and then go underneath. Engine mounts, we'll take the manifold off while it's in the car. Makes it easier for taking the motor out. While I've got this out and I've got the sandwich plate, I'll show you what happened. So this is the sandwich plate with the thermostat in it. The spring holds this oil over here from going through this way, which means that it'll stop the flow of oil through the oil cooler. As we think this thermostat over here is not actually opening at a certain temperature. The engine was getting hot as if it didn't have an oil cooler at all, and because of the fact the engine's not running completely right, we know that everything else in the motor will get much hotter than normal. We'll take this off, we'll take the thermostat out, and then we'll put that back in there, and then it'll just run without a thermostat. So it'll just take a little bit longer to get warm, but it's not really a problem because it does get warm pretty quickly in the pits anyway. So I'm going to finish that off, get the back off, and then we'll start taking this motor out. Backup has arrived. Huh? Oh god. So just so you know, we're working together to get this car done for the Enduro. There's a couple of other things we've got to do. So while I'm tackling the motor, Trent, what are you going to get up to, right?
changing the springs from the 6 to 7?
6, yeah, we got 6 to 7s,
So
yeah.
putting the 7s back in it,
Cool.
heavier springs in the front and the rear.
And the rear, yeah.
So going up all around.
Yeah. Removing the passenger seat, checking the brakes, basically just checking the car over more than anything else.
Got to redo all the height settings. You've got the measurements to set the height at 7s.
Yeah, so got all that stuff. So you're gonna tackle that. I'll carry on with the motor. She's almost ready to come out. All the bolts are off, gearbox bolts are off. As you can see, there's already a crack over there. Don't even need to crack it open. So I'll get the engine crane over and we'll get it out of the car. Engine's out. We've got to get a whole bunch of crap off this engine now. The manifold didn't want to come off while it was in the car, so I'm going to take that off now as well. Push the car over to that side where Treno is going to do the rear suspension. We'll get everything I need to get off this engine so far, then I'll get the new engine out of the back over there and then put all that stuff back on there. We got the old motor. Will you shut up? We got the old motor over here, so everything that I think we need is taken off. We found something we didn't like, which is burnt off the tips of one of the plugs. It was probably when Trent was driving.
I haven't driven it for bloody 6 months.
So here's the automatic motor. Supposedly only 20,000 Ks on it, although it doesn't look like it. It's got a lot of corrosion, but it came out of a wrecker, so it's probably sitting outside for a while. So I'm gonna strip off everything, put the new loom in there, put all the manual bits in there. So we need to do things like, we need to get rid of the automatic pump over here and put the plates on. We need to get rid of the oil line and put in a blanking plug, and then move all of the wiring over as well, and then probably just clean up things like the pulleys and all that kind of stuff. So still quite a bit to do, so let's crack on. It's been a long day. The sun's starting to go down, and I'm still busy assembling the second motor. I have managed to finally get the old wiring loom out of it, which is good. That, to be honest with you, is the most time consuming. It took me about an hour to get that one out and about an hour to get that one out. And it's probably still going to take me about another hour to put that one in. So if ever you're buying a second-hand replacement motor for the 86, make sure that the people that you're buying it for have left the loom in place and not cut any of the wires. It's completely unnecessary. There's one big plug over here that disconnects it from the body harness. That's all they need to disconnect and leave everything else on. Yeah, obviously this is taking a bit longer than it should have. Thanks Trent, mate, you really made this a bit easier for me. At the moment what I'm busy working on is I've just removed the sump over here, cleaned that all up there. So all of that is nice and clean. And the reason why we've done that is because the 86 shop has designed a baffle which we put into the standard sump, and it's a common issue with the flat four motors that the oil comes up and gets into the cylinders and all that area over there. So this is their sump over here, their baffled sump, and just cleaning off all the old gasket material. Sandwiches in between the sump and the block, like that. When the sump goes on it, it prevents most of the oil from going up. Once I've cleaned up the sump, I can put some gasket material in there, seal that up, and carry on with the rest of the items on the engine while that's waiting to dry. Ideally, I'd like to get this motor mostly ready to go back into the car, and then I'll put it into the car during the week. So this will be a couple of days, but it's okay. It's all good. The engine's coming together, and we're gonna have a race car. That's the important bit. Alright, next morning. Last night I decided that I've got a few things that I need to get for the engine. Number one will be new spark plugs and a new manifold for the car, because the one that I was originally going to get seems to not going to be available in time. So before I put the motor back in today is just get it all cleaned up, as well as all the other parts that came off the car. So these things all have a common problem where their front cover leaks. I've already wiped that and it's still caked on. Block off all the holes, get some degreaser on the motor and clean it up so that it's ready when I've got all the rest of the parts to go in. That doesn't sound good.